quick root development and still have a nice even growth. And it gives you the ability to, if you have to, walk away from your plants for a day or two.
Yeah, we were always told the technique was always called make the roots chase the water. So you always water just away from the stalk, not right on it.
Now I haven't done this yet, but let's say you got a solid root ball on the bottom. I've read in different books, not necessarily for cannabis, that a person will cut, like for this mass, you would cut maybe a half an inch deep, an X, and it would stress the plant out a little bit, but it basically would isolate those root masses, and they would grow basically out more vigorously from recovering from like a day to 2 days. Instead of like just being a root ball and trying to grow out from itself, it would stress, and then it would literally shoot out in its quadrant. Haven't tested it yet. I want to do something like that, but has anybody ever done anything like that, or disturbed the root balls, or broke the root balls like you would with a lot of outdoor gardenings? And what do you guys think about that?
Not intentionally.
Not intentionally. But have you noticed any problems, like when you had a half of a root ball like fall off? I mean, has it really been bad?
I've had some transplant shock, like it'll slow them down if you have a lot of root damage, but I will purposely mess them up sometimes, you know, like break them up a little bit to make sure that they don't get root bound.
I think as long as you're not in flower, there's a technique. It's called root pruning. I mean, you can prune your roots, and they're actually almost like topping the plant. So it's gonna make the root tips split from. So you have one, you'll have two instead. So that's the whole idea, kind of behind air pruning through your smart pot. Same thing. The roots are going through there, and they're getting pruned off. And when they get that pruned, that's when it signals them to shoot off that second root hair, root tip, or whatever the hell it's called.
But you don't really get any of that action until it's already hitting the external walls.
Right, but what I'm saying is the whole idea is the same, that when that root is sheared off, or when it's cut, or whatever you want to call it, when it's pruned,
right,
it's actually a good thing because it's stimulating more root growth.
Okay, so that's good to know, because that becomes very valid then at transplant. So if you've got those roots ready to do that, so I've had a company reach out to me, and they've got a fabric pot, which I haven't done a lot with fabric pots lately, but they want me to shoot out their fabric pot against another company that has a pot where the bottom comes off and you stack it, and then it grows into the next pot, kind of like stacking grow cubes. So that's good to know, you know, because we're going to actually be doing like a 1 gallon to a 3.5 gallon transplant. So that's some good information.
Yeah, and it could even be used. I mean, you're going to see some stunting. Obviously, the more you take off, the more it's going to stunt. And I mean, you can take too much also. But like if you want to keep really, that's kind of like bonsai tech. Like if you want to keep really short mother plants, you can keep them in a really, really small pot. Once they get root bound, like super root bound, and you pull them out and all you see is mostly white haired roots, you can trim off like a 1/4 inch of each side of that pot. If you know, in a square, hopefully you're in a square pot, or if you're a circle, figure it out. But a little quarter inch just to shear off all those circled roots, and then plant it in a same size pot if you want to, or a little bit bigger size pot, and they'll just, you know, spread out and grow into that new medium and be just fine. But it's going to slow them down. That's how you can keep mothers around for a long time if you in a small space.
I actually keep my mothers in just fabric pots and let them root prune naturally. And to be honest with you, on average, over 12 months, I keep mothers around for without any like adverse effects from the clones. Right now is about the time that I got to retake them, but they're all dated December of 2018 right now. So I got to retake moms. But fabric pots is how I accomplish that one. I don't overwater either. When I do transplant, I try to just give it a nice even watering, toss in some microbes like some Tribus or some recharge, and let her rip. But definitely not overwater, and don't give it like the full, you know, I'm automated, so I got to make sure that I might hand water the first day or two just to kind of make sure I'm not oversaturating the medium.
And on the same vein of topping plants, topping roots, has anybody ever had like a long, lanky strain like a GMO or a swashbuckler, and have they ever like topped the main top cola, even when it was like a 2-week cola? I've heard that the theory is that either topping the top cola will get more growth to the rest of the colas on that stack, or taking like the top 10% of it, almost like a FIM, almost like you would FIM instead of topping a plant and veg, would actually cause the rest of that cola itself to bulk up a lot more.
This is some super, super old forum stuff that you're digging up here that I remember reading like 2011 or something.
Yeah.
It's called back building. If anybody wants to Google this, back building buds, you can find tons of things on forums about this. People were asking if that was a myth as recently as this year and as long ago as probably 15 years ago. So it's definitely a thing people have been trying to do. I even knew it had a name, so it's not that fucking crazy.
Did you see that? Did you guys see the picture of that flower that was floating around? I want to say it was last year, but it looked like it was just like a mohawk flower. Like it wasn't really tall and skinny. It was more like long and like a blade kind of. It looked like a mohawk. Is that from that kind of technique? I believe that the backstory behind that was it accidentally got topped or something.
I don't know on that one, but
I don't cut my buds till they're ready to be harvested. I don't.
right.
I'm the same way, yeah.
Basically, what it's supposed to stimulate is like when your bud runs into another bud in the plant, it stops growing like lengthwise and then starts bulking up. It's kind of the idea. It's basically to tell your plant that it's out of space. And what you do is you just trim off the very edge of the node on the tip or whatever, and it just tells it that it's hit some shit. It's like squeezing all your buds, something that I never do. Yeah. Basically, that type of effect.
Almost like super cropping, but in flowering.
Sir Sticky in chat says back building was discovered by light burn, which is something that I could believe too, because when you light burn the tip of the plant, it's going to do a similar thing, I would think. It's going to stop wanting to grow the one direction, and it's going to grow, horizontally instead. Gain some girth. I've never tried this. Has anyone tried this?
I'm planning on it. I've got enough grows in the basement 60K here that I think I can put some time toward a couple of these different myths, because I have been always wondering about those.
That's one that's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Thing we were talking about on the podcast right before this, that growing with my fellow growers one that interests me is all this talk about the manipulating the light cycles, especially in flower. A lot of people are talking, like people I respect are talking about last 2 weeks running 18.6, just because then you can throw more light at the plant and it doesn't have enough time to really hermy out, and you can really get more bulk by doing that. And or throwing far red initiator in and running 13 hours on instead of a 12-12 and getting more light on the plant throughout the day.
Didn't you guys kind of on this show determine that at a certain point the plants go to sleep anyway? So maybe 14 hours, 15 hours, you'd get some advantage out of that. But I have a hard time thinking you go 18 hours and, week 9 or something, and they're actually going to be taking advantage of that.
What's something that Colin from Ethos spoke about on one of his shows that he did, and I think that's where somebody, and then Lost Leaf started talking about it also. And I think you're turning your lights down when you do it too, to help account for that DLI so you don't oversaturate your plants. But has something to do with the fact that the root tips don't grow, so your plants aren't going to re-veg. So that's why you can get away with it in the last 3 weeks.
And I'm guessing it's not for the top of the plant. So we're talking, your top of your plant might be drooping, but hey, maybe the stuff down the middle, stuff down at the very bottom could, benefit from extra light. Who knows?
Well, why don't you just do like a split harvest on, chop the top half, and then give the bottom half an extra week or so. I've done that before. It was such a small scale. It's hard to tell if there was really any actual benefit from it, but
I mean, like Rasta Jeff, that's what, Rasta Jeff does it, and he talks about it in his podcast a lot. And, I kind of respect his opinion, being a breeder and pretty well respected in the industry. And I'm like, there's got to be something to it, or he wouldn't be.
Well, maybe the something that is to it is breeding specific. Because you notice it's 2 breeders that were talking about it. So maybe they have more of a benefit to being able to throw that plant back in their veg room instead of keeping it in their flower room or something like that. That's breeding cycle related, that doesn't apply to us as much.
Now, I wonder if maybe if you were going to extend that, I would probably want to add it to the beginning of the cycle. I'm noticing when I go to my facility and the lights are not on yet, but I still have to go in there and do a little bit of work, maybe an hour before the lights are on. The leaves are already starting to prey. An hour after the lights go off, they're drooping and they're definitely asleep. So I'm thinking maybe if you were going to experiment with that, maybe lean towards the on side and maybe kick them on a little bit earlier while they're already, maybe judge what time in the day that they're starting to perk up. I don't know. For Growly, I'm kind of on the same wavelength of what you were saying. I'm kind of curious myself because I do notice that they don't really need that. They start to droop towards the end of the cycle. They're already looking like they're going to sleep. But it does make sense if you're knocking your lights down to 60%, 50%. I mean, they're not getting that intensity. So I don't know.
Yeah, they're not getting that intensity, and you're getting the length of hours. Like, where is the balance? I really think ultimately it's going to be be strain specific, not only in whether they like maybe the longer days with less intensity, or the shorter days with higher intensity, or maybe it's maybe it's further away from the light, or whatever it is. Every single genetic line is going to express something a little bit differently. Like, especially the wake up and I guess shutdown times. You talked about throwing that red light initiator in there. Like, that definitely be one way to kind of shut it down at the end of the day. So yeah, maybe you initiate that, but you throw in a couple hours on the beginning of the day before they're waking up. But again, it's all going to depend on the genetics you have, and I think it's only going to benefit rooms when you kind of pair those genetics together that want to cooperate, or you have a monocrop, which I wish.
Yeah, that's a good example. My granddaddy purple doesn't get any taller than this high on me. It won't get higher than 4 feet. So harvesting that twice or I mean, from the bottom up, they're all pretty much the same ripeness of buds. So, but I do also approach that harvesting twice if I can, and I have a week to like stretch it out. I'll take that top layer of ripe buds and let the bottoms photosynthesize so that they can bulk up. I've noticed better yields doing that in my home crops. I haven't tried that, under CO2 or anything, but I'm imagining I'd get the same.
Here's my question though: when are you cutting off nutrients? Because you still want to flush the plant so that those tops, like the grade A nugs, are getting flushed. But then, I mean, if you're gonna push it like 2 more weeks, what are you throwing a tea in there? Because you're still gonna have like time to flush again.
Tea would help break down.
Yeah, I've never messed with that. Usually I do the microbes through flush, and I keep magnesium sulfate. I don't run RO like 0 ppm. I keep about 150 to 200 ppm of magnesium sulfate through flush. So that kind of helps. But running the larger scale that I do, I haven't messed with that topping half. I've been pulling plants whole. So I don't know. It's been a couple years since I've pulled, half a plant, let the other half go. But I was just running, I would like flush by hand because I would have the same one reservoir for like 3 trays of perpetual. So like every 3, so I was always running at like 900 ppm. And then when it was time to flush, I was doing it by hand, just shutting off drip emitters and flushing by hand. So that's one way you can do it if you're doing it small scale. The way I had to do it, at least.
I'm curious to hear what other people do for your flushing, like how long and what you're using, ppms.
Yeah, I started about 650 because I'm a hydroponic grower. I think Sequence, myself, Spartan at work might be the only hydroponic systems. But I dialed down about 650 probably around week 5, week 6. And then week 7 and 8, I'm at like 350, maybe even 300. And then I'm taking it down to like 150 for like definitely the last week. The last week I'm at 150. And I haven't gone down to 0 in a real long time, and I haven't seen any quality effects. I've seen benefit. I've seen like flavor benefits, increases, things like that. I haven't gotten them tested. So this is all, it's all
in your head, man.
in my head, and it probably could be. I mean, it could be biased. Could all be anecdotal. It's definitely anecdotal, but it could all be biased. So
and you also said you use magnesium sulfate. What is your reasoning for that?
The sulfur, just the theory that the sulfur should be adding in the terpenes, and like I said, I mean that could be giving me that biased opinion. So let's see.
So my last run, I did with Floraflex. Week 3, I started cutting out the potassium silicate, and then by week 5, I was already cutting down the Floraflex. And then I ran Epsom salts right up to flush. So, and this one I flushed for 14 days before I could tell that they were like really dead. So, and I was alternating pHs of 5.8 to 6.2, and on the 6.2 days, just feeding Michael Jordan from Elite 91 for the microbes. So pretty straightforward. Seemed to pay dividends. Pretty good meds. So
Do you go 0 ppm that last 2 weeks?
the last 2 weeks, I straight flush with water. That's it.
Yeah, I just started doing the like 150 to 200 ppm the last couple of weeks, because I usually do probably, I dial it down up until that last week, and then I flush 0 ppm that last week and get it all out as much as I can.
Yeah, it was 0. It was probably 0 ppm for the last week. I did I think it was the 3rd day into flush. I did a slurry test, and I was still at like 600 ppm. So it took a minute to break it all down and get it all out of there. So
I guess not to confuse anybody, like typically I run, like, we'll call it like a 1.0 EC. So
right.
when I'm like starting to dial back, around week 5, week 6, I'm actually probably more at like a 0.8 EC, 0.7 EC, and that's when I start to dial down. Yeah,
sufficient.
Keep it on like the EC level. Yeah, and then I'm probably flushing at that 0.2. Not flushing while I'm running that last couple of weeks, 0.2, 0.1.
And for the ppm people, that 1.0 would be 750, right?
Yeah, it's like 750, 800. It depends on which ppm scale you're on. Also, it's just 500.
Yeah, there's 2 different scales. That's why I was trying to.
Yeah, it's usually more
Look
common.
up what meter you're using.
Yeah, if we can all be on, like, probably try to stay on the EC scale that way, because I run ppm 700, I think, and I think most people run ppm 500. I want to run whatever one's the lowest when I'm checking ppm.
Well,
I
the
just do
good
that because it gives you like kind of a more, it gives you like a tighter range, with the ppm. But then you can check your EC and be able to communicate with others on what we're at.
Yeah, and when you say EC, anyone that's using a pH meter can look up what 1.0 EC means.
Right. Yeah, there's math, there's some conversion if your meter doesn't do it for you.
There were times that the plants were at 2.5 EC, and at the next feeding they were already dropped down to 1.8 in the next day. So they were able to really take it this time around.
So at work we have the fortune of having rolling tables. So all the plants are sitting on these tables, and the runoff just drains all to one spot, and we can catch that in the bucket, and we can get runoffs every single day. Really easily. So we actually tailor every single feeding from day one from what the runoff was from the day before. So we want to stay at a certain level. We actually kind of do it a little, probably not like many other places. We start fairly high as far as flowering goes. Early weeks of flower is probably our highest ppms that you'll see, and then we slowly taper down. I mean, I would say about average across the whole flowering cycle, we're probably around 700 or lower. When we're flushing after our first big flush, we'll get down to 300 ppms or lower, and we're trying to shoot for that 0, but I mean, it's usually probably within the 100 to 200 range or lower. And we're taking these, after every flush, we'll take the readings. If it's too high for us, we'll know, okay, next time we're flushing with a higher volume. And that's how we adjust that, how we can push more out. We'll just say, well, we'll just hit it with more water.
How many plants are getting combined into these buckets? I guess they're runoff.
So it'd be one table, and that would be 40 plants. And then 5-gallon pots and cocoa.
So it's like homogenized runoff, basically, for
200 gallons of soil.
Yeah.
Do you have a way to narrow down if you're like experiencing a problem on one plant? Do you have a way to capture your runoff off of one single individual?
So what we do in that case is we have those little plant risers, those little plastic plant risers. So we'll get to that plant, we'll put it on a plant riser to get it that high off of the table, and we'll sip shot glasses, the little shot glasses they sell at every grocery store. We'll sit them underneath that riser. We can just get them to fit underneath there. And then when it waters, it just fills up the shot glasses, and we can pour them all together, and we can get a sample that way off of just a single plant.
I like it. It's a technique that I haven't, excuse me, haven't really gotten hip to yet because just old bad habits. I would like to really start monitoring my runoff a lot more. So, you know, I'm like one of those visual guys that I watch leaf tips and things like that. And I know that's old school techniques that I kind of need the bad habit drop and just double up on my runoff. But I'm in saucers, so I'm trying to figure out a good way to slide maybe some type of something underneath my. I use risers, so that's a good idea if I can find a shot glass or something small enough to capture it.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, other than like getting a turkey baster in that saucer, it's just like it's not feasible. You know what I mean?
I
And
have
then
a secret.
how reliable is that? You know, when there's salt in the bottom of the basin and stuff already. You know,
That's what I mean. Like I could just stick my EC meter in like 3 days worth of runoff, but like it's been evaporated and built up, and you can't like if you're by yourself, you can't like lift up that plant that 40-pound thing with one hand and slide a new tray under there and try to figure it out. So I've been trying to. My gears have been turning. For Groli, I'm glad you're in the same boat.
That's what I was thinking with Spartan. Like, there's no way you're going through like 40 different plants if you're trying to, or just per table, try to like lift them up, slide that riser under there. You know what I mean? One at a time.
Well,
No.
that's the thing is,
That's
when
seriously.
when you have a uniform, watering system, you normally have uniform plants if you're growing from clones. So it's not really a situation we run into a whole lot. It might be one plant on a table every couple months. If
you usually noticing a dripper that's clogged or something like that, right?
Well, every watering, that's just procedure. You turn the pump on, you walk the table, you look at every single dripper. You just do that. So, hopefully if there's a dripper not working, you catch that pretty quickly.
And are you guys running the same strain per table, or are you doing kind of like, like an elevated thing like we had talked about with the grape ape, how that's so much shorter versus, some sativa that you're going to run?
So what we 90% of the time have done so far is we fill the entire room, which is 3 tables, with the same strain. It's a monocrop. But we've also gotten we've gotten a hold of a lot of genetics. And so the mother plants that we have up there to, make sure we can keep them alive, we got to cut some clones. So now we're starting to do kind of like a pheno kind of a thing. So we're doing tables. We just loaded up an in-house genetics table. So we've got a table of garlic cane, a table of slurricane, and a table of what's the banana one?
Blue Nana.
Yeah, blue nana. So that's the first kind of mixed table we have. Other than we do have a room right now, flower room 6 is full of, it's the same strain, but it's 2 different phenols. And it's the guava, the strawberry guava. And wow, I can't wait for that to get closer to flower because it smells so goddamn good.
So with the slurry tests, last year, pretty much the whole year, I ran Nectar for the Gods down here in the LED tents in the 6K. And I would do it more like what Nectar for the Gods recommends, where you would, in my case, I could open up the air pots and I could take a little bit of soil and mix it with the water from a feeding after like 6 hours or the next day. And so I'd mash that together and then take my readings. So that's how I was doing it. And you kind of have to live by it with a nutrient line like Nectar for the Gods. So yeah, if people can get into doing slurry testing and then they can get into like doing bricks reading, you could really get some good data on your plants and really start to dial in specific strains and how they actually perform.
That's another tip that just reminded me of pH meters. We use the Blue Labs at work. I use them here at home. The little combo meter that one has the TDS meter, EC meter, whatever, and then the actual pH. We've got a new probe out now. Well, maybe it's not even new anymore, but
Soil probe.
It's got like a glass tip and it's a soil probe, and you can actually stick it right into the soil and get a pH reading of your soil directly. And that's kind of a game changer, you know what I mean? Without having to catch runoff and try it. If you can't get runoff to check the pH of your runoff, you can stick this right into the soil and get that pH right there. And it works just like a regular pH pen. You can stick it in water all day long.
Dude, I'm still afraid I'm gonna break the glass on some perlite. I still haven't even messed with it because I'm afraid I'm gonna break it on perlite. And I'm like, I can't even go without it for like a day. Can't even do it.
It's worth it, man. It's worth every penny.
I believe, yeah, I want to try it. Like, I'm really interested. I want to like go for it, but I'll just have to go for it. I guess I'll have to make sure it comes with that little tool, which is cool. You can like pre-poke your little hole, and so yeah, maybe I'll just have to do it while it's I don't know, maybe right after I water or something when it's nice and soggy. I don't know. Mind over matter.
I did want to share a secret for maybe somebody on a smaller scale, not working with tables, just in maybe fabric pots with a regular plant tray underneath it. If you have the room around it, you don't need a whole lot. They're squirt guns. They're those suck up squirt guns. You know what I mean? I use those. You can suck up like almost a half gallon with one pull if you get the big ones, right? They're cheap. They're like $8-10 a piece. Saved me because a lot of my
genius.
well, and I was at the time growing in my basement, and a lot, my lights were on at night, and my family was sleeping upstairs, and I couldn't have my shop vac on. I mean, I got a big ass shop vac. That's the obvious solution here, but if I'm reaching in through scrog nets, it works good. I mean, it was just a super great thing I discovered because I was like, damn it, how am I gonna get this out of here? And I saw my kid's squirt gun. I was like, yeah, let me try that out. Worked out.
I thought old man was going to talk about his solution to not having a riser, which blew my mind.
Yeah, that one blew my mind, but this was a good tip too.
He blows my mind with this shit.
Old man, tell us the other tip.
I don't know. I guess I thought that was a thing that a lot of people do. You buy giant hydroton cube or pellets, and you just put them under your fabric pot on your plant tray, and that way you can water through. Up to maybe a half inch of water and not drown your plant, but you're still getting a little bit of water through. It just made it like infinitely easier to manage my garden, especially.
Are you talking about in the bottom of the pot, like before you put the media on?
No, he's talking about he takes his saucer, fills them with hydroton, and puts his pot on the hydroton.
Right.
So the runoff goes past the hydroton.
I see.
Keeps the pot up above, so it still gets the airflow.
So what I
like sub irrigate.
What I used to do when I was intense, this is many years ago, when I was on much smaller scale and had the time to do this to every single pot, when I was transplanting into my final pot, I would take cheesecloth and I would coat the bottom about maybe 1.5 inches or so to 2 inches of the pot, maybe a 5-gallon pot or so, with perlite. And then I put the I guess the cheesecloth on top of that, or maybe I did it on the bottom of it just to keep it all in, but it was cheesecloth at some point. And then put my cocoa in on top of that, or my soil in on top of that. And that just allowed, if I was overwatering or anything, or if I wanted to, I guess leave some water in the tray and take off for the weekend or whatever, those roots would eventually find it, but it was a way to kind of keep the media, I guess, a little bit more aerated and not sitting in the water itself. So similar concept, just I guess different reason.
Yeah, that almost sounds like almost like a modified hempy pot kind of what you had going on.
I used to do that outdoor. I always have such a hard time keeping plants in like plastic pots out on my deck and stuff, and a lot of times they're just oversaturated at the bottom when you pull them out at the end of the year. So I started using like gravel. This is like before I realized like row stone and other like large chunks of perlite existed, but I would use something like that too. Get a little oxygen barrier down there.
It's been kind of cool too. I mean, my roots been growing through the pots, obviously a little bit down onto the rocks, or onto the hydroton pellets, and those things hold a lot of water and microbial life, and I mean all sorts of stuff is in there. I was worried about maybe having pest issues because of it,
an anaerobic situation.
Right, getting a little swampy and shit or something, but I haven't had that issue at all because pretty much at any time I can just let it dry out and then it's dry,
And then everything air prunes and it kind of starts over.
Yeah, and it's been pretty nice so far. Yeah.
And that's a main reason why I use. It's the main reason why I use the air pots in the flood and drain trays out in the 6-way shootout. I actually build the air pots basically upside down, so the perforated holes go from the bottom up, and then the plastic bottom has a dimple. Well, I have the dimple facing down. That way it's a little bit more of a parabola, but it always sits at least like a 1/2 inch above the bottom of the flood table. So no matter what, and of course I've had to drill like a couple holes in the center of the flood table to make sure that it drains out, quicker and nothing is stagnant, because you don't want an anaerobic situation. But that's another reason why I like the air pots, because you do get that little bit of lift no matter what. And yeah, it works out.
Yo, man, I know Abolish should probably tell you that that's real similar to his sub irrigation system that he kind of uses. You know, if you ever went on vacation, you could probably overload that with a little bit of water or something, and give yourself an overnighter, maybe 20, 48 hours or so. Yeah.
Right. And I'm in soil
It's yeah.
fabric,
Urban.
so 10 galloners, so that they hold. I'm towards ladder flower. I'm watering every 4 days. I mean, they're not drinking too much. So
Yeah.
I wanted to experiment back when Abolish kind of had his the frugal team going and things like that, and they were working on that. I was talking about experimenting with doing a Jack's run of sub irrigation, just trying to feed strictly like with a fabric pot and maybe doing a tray and some hydrogen or perlite or something in the tray, and seeing if I could sub irrigate with Jack's at a low ppm or something, maybe just some microbes. I don't know. See,
I think that's maybe why I didn't think it was a big deal, because I think I maybe just heard it from Abolished or something. I mean, I don't know. When I did that, I thought maybe probably most people do it. I don't know. I'm kind of a hermit. I'm not watching a bunch of other people do shit, So it's funny. I'm a chaos grower. I kind of do my own thing, and I don't know. I hear some shit and stuff, but that's why I'm not a great grower. So it's all right. I'm loving the journey, man. The journey. It's always
this
about
whole thing started in the basement of Stoner Engineering. It hasn't really come out yet. Let's be real.
right.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like real information being passed around. I think that's what we're doing. We're starting to finally pass around some good information. Look at how much stuff got
it's like
wiped.
pointing fingers. You're just pointing a finger in a direction and saying, I think it's in this direction. Let's just start looking over there. So you just grow and you take some things under some tips and some advice and try it. And if it works for you, then put it in your bag of tricks and run it for next time. If it doesn't, hey man, don't say it doesn't work. Just say it didn't work for me. And maybe I'll come back to that later if my situation changes, for sure.
Yeah, it's cool. We can get at least a couple good crops out of a year, no matter where you are. In 365 days, you should be able to grow a good couple crops in a couple different media types, a couple different watering styles, lighting styles, and dial in your own niche. Because that's what it is. It's an art form. You gotta
Right.
develop it on
That's
your
really
own.
what I'm discovering a lot of the time too, is like with new genetics comes new stuff. I mean, it's been really cool, because I've been stuck kind of growing one strain. Like I've got one strain that really I can't defeat. That's sort of the thing about it. I can't kill my garlicane. It just keeps growing no matter what I do to it. And so I'm getting some other genetics now, and it's been an adventure, man. I'm loving it, and realizing that it really is such a short or such a long process for somebody like me who's really just kind of starting out. I had some startup money, like I put my shop together. I've got tall ceilings, I've got some nice lights and stuff, but I also work a full-time job, and I do a lot of other kind of stuff. So I don't have a whole lot of time to put into growing. So I've been just working on simplifying my grow, doing more, dry amendments and some stuff like that to simplify my stuff. And it's been going pretty well, but it's a trial, man. I fail some plants miserably and I feel really bad about it. And then some plants do really great, so there's a lot of ups and downs. And I feel like people see stuff we post, like I'm not posting my shitty plants, I've got them though. And I think probably all of us do. And I think
Those of us that are laughing, for sure, brother.
I think it's silly that it's put out like everybody has a perfect grow every time, just because we've got Instagram pages that look good, because it's just not true,
No.
I'm not showing off.
My grow is perfect.
Right now.
It's just behind schedule.
My other room is full of a bunch of testers that are like, they're a bunch of like sativas, gangly. The whole room looks crazy. I got leaves and shit.
That's the key though, is when you realize that there are so many moving parts that goes into your own garden. You've got not just the genetics, you've got the nutrients, you've got the lighting, you've got the environment, you've got time, you got all kinds of things going on. Anytime that you pop new gear, you're changing one of those variables, man, and you're not sure how it's going to turn out. So if you've been knocking it out of the ballpark and you pop something new and it doesn't come out the way you want it to, take a clone of it, run it again, see what happens. Guess what? It might be better, it might not be. Make sure you take that third clone and then make a decision on something, Don't sell yourself.
I
your
preach for
garden,
growing
your
them
head
all
short.
twice. Like this first run of 9-pound hammer that I got from Eagle was a little bit disappointing. I'm gonna run that over again, like fully through my system because we had different cocoa. You know, maybe he plays different music for his plants than I do. That one really didn't dig it. We're gonna try her again. I'm really excited to see what it does the next run. I've got a few more clones of it. But I genuinely preach that you got to run them a few times just to see what it's going to do in your room.
I was just gonna say preach, Scobo, because like that's. I mean, I spent the last 2.5 years dialing in one flower room really, and like turning that thing into just a perfectly lubed factory. You know, like a really commercial garden, and it was amazing. But now I've since moved, and I've only brought a handful of genetics, and I've recently popped about 80 seeds, and I'm picking up genetics from 2 of my caregiver friends this week. And I'm on, 2020 is gonna be a wild ride. I'm a little scared, guys.
Just like my 2019.
That sounds intense, honestly. It really does.
I've got my first crop through the flower room that I have now, you know what I mean? And I'm everything's just about done drying now, and I'm making, the corrections and the updates, and, kind of fine tuning certain areas that I saw over the course of that first grow. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting clusterfuck.
I would be in heaven, man. I love fucking getting new genetics in the garden and just trying to figure them out, see what kind of new terp I might be able to find. I'm always on the hunt.
Yeah, I've always appreciated the stability of the really the award. I mean, I guess quite frankly, the award-winning genetics that I've been running for a long time. But I just feel it like it's that time that I try popping some new things. It's been really 2 years since I've done a pheno hunt, and also kind of bringing in some genetics that have already kind of been verified by other people as well. So I'm really excited because me, I'm about the extracts, I'm about the terps, and man, I welcome all profiles.
That's a lot of sifting for sure, man. You got to go through 80 beans. So
You're never getting rid of Clementine, right?
No,
she's hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit.
Yeah, too good.
Still my best dab ever, Clementine. I'll give it to you for girly. That was the shit.
Insanely good shit.
For girly, I was talking about you on a show that's unaired last night, and I busted this old reliable out, the lime and grapefruit. That's still my favorite.
you've talked about that more than some people talk about Clementine, man.
Yep. It's those lime terps, man. That's where it's at, man. Just
That's what I'm searching out right now. I'm searching out. I bought that pack of Tahiti lime, hoping to catch some of that. I got a plant called Citrique in the garden right now that's really limey. Excited for it.
Oh, that could be really nice, bro.
Citrique from Exotic?
Citrique from Exotic, yes. Yep. Yeah, I actually hunted only a couple different seeds, a couple different females, but I'm gonna keep one around for another run or two and see how it goes. So it was good under single-ended HPS, so I'm excited to get it out to the farm and see how she runs, man. I got a couple clones going.
I've tried that as a dab before. It was good.
Was it limey? Is that what you got off of it?
Yeah, but there was like a muskiness to it too. So I
Interesting.
don't know.
I've got that shout out to Eagle Gardens down there, who hasn't talked very much yet today. I wanted to hear him on his new microphone, but shout out to you. I've got that blueberry quintessa in flowers about 3 weeks in right now, and from early veg, it's been smelling nothing but blueberry. So I'm excited.
Man.
I'm really excited for
Love
her.
it when I like that.
That's the new one in my garden. I'm really excited for.
Oh, you're gonna absolutely love that thing. The CBD side of it is amazing, and then you pack that blueberry indica a little bit in there with it, and it's a really nice strain. I was surprised. That was the first CBD-ish strain that I've dealt with that I was really set back with, that it really lived up to CBD, what I would expect from a CBD. It brought a lot of relief for pain and anxiety, and it brought that awesome blueberry flavor. So I'm glad that you were able to get a female out of that, much less two. And yeah, I've been pretty quiet tonight, man. It's been awesome. Listen, it's been a great chat tonight, man. It's hasn't been no dead spots. Let me sneak in. And
Mike sounds awesome, dude.
The other reason is our guest's fault here for Growly, who's unwittingly got me all messed up tonight. I packed a big joint with some of this indigo daydream that he was nice enough to gift me at the Saspo session. Man, that stuff tears me up. So yeah, that's a good reason why I'm quiet here. I'm just
I've gotten to
enjoying it.
dab that, and I've got to admit that was insanely good. I got like a berry flavor out of that. Is that accurate at all? Or did I taste something that's not accurate? I felt like I had berry on that one for Growly.
I'd say that's somewhat accurate. It's not like a grape berry or a blueberry, but there's something in there. It's not that citrusy either. That was actually the first time I ever ran that. That was for Origin Canopies, some indoor organically grown flower. And man, I like honestly, that's probably in the last 3 months, that's probably been the most raved about strain or combo or extract I put out there was the Indigo Daydream. And I actually just finished mine this weekend. I plowed through that over the New Year's little break there, like a few grams of it. But yeah, it was definitely a good one. But props to Origin Canopies. Shout out to him on Instagram.
That was amazing for sure. That's what I'll be looking for the next time I see you for sure. Man, that was it. Thank you. Yeah. It does you right for sure. I haven't been that set back. I get a floral, kind of a floral, citrus floral taste off it is what I pick up on it, both on the terps and the taste. Very enjoyable. Good work, brother.
Thanks, man. I've done another one for him. It was Indigo Cherries, I believe. So it must be some similar strain. I don't recall off the top of my head what exactly the lineage is. But yeah, same thing, Indigo Cherries. And I think he has plans to run that again sometimes in the future. So yeah, keep an eye out for both of them. I think whatever day.
I've got Indigo Grapefruit here too as well, which was just as good, but I would prefer the Daydream myself. But the Grapefruit was really, really good too.
I Googled this strain, so I'm going to read it really quick. It says it delivers a sappy floral punch with undertones of blackberry jam and fermenting blueberries. Fresh grapes with a slight piney citrus back note. So I guess I was kind of there. There's some berries in there.
I wasn't far off. When I hit that last week, I said pine, if you remember. On the exhale, I thought I picked up some pine. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely more like fruity on the front end, and then that back end is like I was thinking more funky, but I think maybe that fermenting jam, like they're saying, is what I'm getting on it because it's just like it's not like that funk of like sweeping pie that was just like my friend used to say it was like baby shit in a diaper. You know what I mean? It was just like this weird funk, but it was so good. You know what I mean? So it's not like funky like that, but it's like that citrus kind of leads into it in a weird way.
It says it's a 9 to 10 week strain.
Yeah, I believe
good things come to those who wait sometimes.
Hey, man.
Monocrop it with the GMO.
My Apollo 13 has that baby diaper funk, either fresh or used. I don't know. It's delicious, man, and I can't stop smoking it during the day. I'll tell you that much. It's like I try to simmer it down on the nose test, and I try to call it just moon cheese, and I'm like, maybe that doesn't smell as bad as a dirty baby diaper.
All about the visuals, right?
Moon cheese.
Yeah, what are some? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask you a question, actually. I was going to ask you what genetics that you popped, because I know that you're pheno hunting for your single source.
Oh, you're gonna make me like pull up a picture on my Instagram or something because there was so many of them. I think there was 11 different strains. and I know Slurricane was one of them. And it was
Nice.
kind of a big combo of like ocean grown stuff that they had gifted me a while ago, and then some other stuff. So if I could zoom in on this photo real quick, molten, and this isn't all of them, but this is the options I had. Let's see if I can get these right. Slurricane, molten core CBD, Cutlass Supreme, which I've grown up before, which is unreal. The flower was. Unfortunately, I only had one plant of it. Vader's Vintage. I think I popped some Malibu and some Tropic Moon and some Jedi Punch. I think I also popped some Plush Hammer and Pound Pie from Malik Spider. I did pop the Frost Giant Backcross, but those seeds are several years old now, and I don't think I actually had any of them come through, unfortunately. And then I also popped the Jesus Juice, which is Empire Breeding, the Mimosa Cross with Duct Tape, and the Vampire Mints, which is Wedding Cake and something else. Some of the other strains I'm hoping to get in here in the very near future, like next few days, are Mimosa, Wedding Cake, Gelato 33, and Lemon Skittles. I think are the 4 that I've kind of chosen so far.
I mean, the Skittles sounds really good.
Yeah, man, I wanted some more lemon.
I'm running a Do-si-do and Gelato 33 cut. I'm cutting it in the next couple days. It looks to me to be perfect in terms of trichome size and everything. The buds are a little loose. It's my first run on this, but it looks great. It's stinky. It's beautiful. I'm into it. I can't wait to cut it and try it.
Old man, is that the in-house? Old man, is that the in-house version? I think it's awesome that you're pretty much running a lot of in-houses stuff, and I'm running like the archive side of things. Because I too ordered I ordered kind of the opposite. Mine's a gelato female with a Do-si-do male. So we'll see how those compare. I'm really excited.
Nice. I'll try to get some ready for the 18th.
Yeah, mine won't be ready for a while. I just ordered those seeds, so we'll see. Hopefully you'll keep something around, and I'll keep something around.
Yeah, totally.
Around this time, we'll see what happens.
I've got a big old mother plant going of it. It is, man, it's going to be a good washer. So I'm into it. Terps are good. I'm feeling pretty good about it. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, we'll do that comparison for the beginning of season 3.
Yeah.
Oh shit! There we go. Looking ahead.
There you go.
Now, old man, you'd mentioned something in the chat earlier that you were washing this week, and what have you been washing and how'd it go?
It was another run of my garlicane outdoor stuff. This was a run of seeds that I did, 3 different plants, none of which compared in any way to the 2 phenos that I had kept, right? They didn't have it. Not anything near the ones that I've got. So I washed that, and it went good. I did some videotaping and actually hired a little crew to come out. I'm putting together a small series of videos and stuff, just about wash and hash and kind of how I see it, So it was great, and I always have such a good time when I wash. It was a little weird to be filmed and to try to talk it through because it's such a solitary thing, like when I'm washing or in my garden, I'm always alone. No one's ever with me. It's like the best, right? And so having people there with me while I was doing it was a little daunting, and trying to talk through a process that I know internally a million times, but I don't ever have to like talk it through, So it was interesting, but the return on that, I'm thinking this time was probably like 7. I don't know. I can't really guess at it, but close to 20, maybe 16 to 20 for sure. So we'll see. I didn't throw it in the freeze dryer yet. I just threw it in the freezer because it was a long ass day. Man, those buds are so dense. Like I gotta soak them for like 45 minutes before I can wash them. They're like, and even then, I'm getting a little bit of plant material because it's not quite soaked in yet. It's crazy.
Sounds like first world hash problem makers.
Yeah,
there.
I know, totally. It's rough life, man. But it's fun, and I learn a little bit every time I do it. And My results are getting better and better. I'm loving it. I love it.
I can't wait to see those videos, man. They're going to do well because people will, I think last time I looked at a Frenchie cannoli video that you can't even hardly understand the guy.
Right.
You got to read the subtitles, but there's still 1 million views or whatever. So if you're going to put information out in a way people can understand it, you probably would be doing all right.
Explain like you're 5.
I feel like, and so I'm running it in a way that shows how I do it with my freeze dryer and everything, as well, because it's like a freeze dryer. If you have a freeze dryer, then you're gonna know how to do this. It's not really a thing. I mean, Frenchie's an artist, more traditional, and like mad respect. He's done all the work. Dank Duchess, stuff like, she's amazing too. She's got some great
Get them
videos.
temple ball videos, man, are great. By her.
And even just, instructionally how to wash, I obsessed over Duchess has a video on a super lekker wash that she did that was like, I watched it over and over and over,
Dude, I've never seen that one.
There's nothing innovative about anything I'm doing. I watch other people and then I get to have a relationship with the material, you know what I mean? And try to work with it in that way.
I mean, what you can also do for filming is you can literally just go into the zone and ignore the camera crew and do a classic Vader OG voiceover, man, later on, and write a little script and stuff. And hey, you know what I mean? You want to capture the art, you want to transmit who you are as a hash maker, just do it and don't even think that the cameras exist, bro.
Right. It's going to be a short series, but I'm going to take material and I'm going to, from flour all the way to rosin, it's going to take me some time to put probably the rosin video together, but the rest of that will be done. I mean, the first in the series will be released probably in the next month, for sure. So
you say it's a short series, but it's gonna turn into my closed loop series, and it's gonna be 12 videos long, and you're gonna be writing full voiceover scripts and just editing for days, and it's gonna take a year to do it all, and then good luck, man.
Bro, those are a community treasure, though, man. Like, that's a posterity move right there. That's helped so many fucking people.
That's what we're all here for, though. Like, we should all be doing this, and like myself included, because I haven't really done much in the last year here on YouTube. In fact, it's pretty much been nothing, and I regret it. I just wish I had the time to do more. It can be a huge commitment, but it doesn't need to be, and that's what I'm trying to convince myself for 2020 is to just put out simple videos back like the old Medi Cropper style, where you walk in the garden, you talk about what you did last week and how things have improved or gone sour and what's been wrong and what's been broken and, what kind of nutrients you fed and all that kind of stuff. I just do the simple walkthroughs. I have a gimbal for my phone. Like I bought it for that. Like, let's just do it.
How awesome.
So dude, that's what I need is a gimbal. Oh man.
I'm kind of curious here a little bit, if you don't mind me jumping in, old man. You've got some tools that I don't have and are able to utilize. Of course, the freeze dryer there is the material that you're washing. Have you utilized the freeze dryer? I mean, by freeze drying the bud first, or I'm sure you're washing the traditional methods, either frozen or dried material now, but could you see a difference, or do you think there would be a difference in freeze drying the material first? Do you think you might be able to capture more terps or something, or the buds that you can't get to fall apart now? Do you think would be more brittle if you freeze dried them first and were able to break them up that way in the wash?
So freeze drying bud, it makes it so dry that pretty much right when you touch it, it just crumbles to dust. I mean, it's like there's nothing to it anymore. Without moisture, it is powder, pretty much, and so the purpose of, like, when we want to get it in the water and get it wet, either way, even if it's fresh frozen, like, if it's fresh frozen, number one, you put it in your washer or your bucket or whatever, and you pretty much get working on it, gently, almost right away,
Powdery but well preserved, I would think. It's not like it would be like a dry, bud that's been sitting around and nasty, but it would be dried in a good way, somewhat well
It
preserved,
would
I
look
would think.
pristine, like you could, if you wanted to preserve some weed for 25 years from now, that would be a really perfect way to do it, it'd be the ideal way to do it. But
But
I freeze dried some bud, and like I tried to smoke it, and it was shitty, and it tasted like chlorophyll because I don't know, maybe it was the bud, but I thought it tasted like shit. And I
Yeah,
turned me
but
off the idea.
ultimately we're talking about hash here. Do you think even at that, do you think it might even increase some yield? I can understand that, as far as the bud goes and smoking it and later on, yeah, it does break down and it's not as appealing as a traditional dry or whatever. But in this conversation, we're speaking about hash. So,
Oh, right.
I'm just thinking it'd be a easier step or a pre-step to getting closer to them trichomes. Maybe you wouldn't have to use as much ice. You just some colder water and then knocking it around if it was a freeze dried.
But the plant material itself, like the bud, has to be flexible. You know what I mean? Or that'll turn into dust.
Yeah, you're just trying to break off the heads of the trichomes, nothing else.
So
right.
what they're saying, Eagle, is that the it gets so dry that the pieces of the plant material itself can be turned into such a fine powder and pass through the screen, and you're gonna have a not as clean of a concentrate. I think is what they're trying to get at.
Right. When you wash in water of any kind, like the bud needs to be flexible, because what breaks the trichome heads off when you're making hash is not the ice, it's the cold and the motion of the water. So in a general sense, you don't want any plant matter. And actually, okay, so I can use this as an example. This last wash that I just did yesterday or whatever, the buds weren't quite soaked through. They're dense, hard buds, right? But I turned the washer on anyway. It'd been like 45 minutes. I got to film through there. I'm like, shit, I got to get this going, right? The first couple washes had a little bit of green in it. Now I was able to wash it through and spray it through, not a big deal. But the plant material was there because the bud was a little bit too dry still in the center of the buds. And as it was breaking up, it released some plant material into the bag, and it's not a big deal because it wasn't chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is more of an issue that happens with fresh frozen. And that is an issue of over agitation and maybe not enough cold. I mean, fresh frozen is a whole different ball game than a cured plant material resin collection,
I just want to put my 2 cents in real quick on that. From my perspective, as someone that does hydrocarbon extraction, the more exposure to the cell walls within the plant, like say, for example, like trimmed up plant material, the more likely you are to bring that chlorophyll along. And it sounds like it's probably the similar scenario with bubble hash.
Right.
I just don't believe that bud's a bud tossed straight into the water, freeze dried, is gonna crumble into a finer powder than a trichome. I stopped.
Yeah.
My 160 is garbage. I've spoke of that before. Even 120, I'm kind of iffy about. It better be some nice, huge heads. I will use a 120 for edibles, but I'm not gonna smoke that or use it or call it my hash.
Yeah, no, me neither. Like I would keep my 73, my 45, and then I would usually combine my 25 and whatever else and throw that into, RSO or edibles or whatever I want to make with it. But that wouldn't be something I would probably press or do anything like that. I mean, I would collect a 90. Actually, this last wash, I did a 120, like a 160, a 220, a 160, 120. My collections were in the 73 and the 45.
Nice.
That was it. So I didn't do a 90U collection or anything. That might have been a different, a slightly better grade. I don't know. But like, I only have time for so many bags, Jesus, it's a crazy town. And it's a lot of work. And I had a film crew there and I had to get it done. So I took one bag out to make it just a little simpler.
I really love the live rosin. I know we get a little bit of a debate going in the chat and everybody's opinion on the different extracts and stuff. It's really interesting, interesting debate to have. I like all of the different things, but I'll tell you what, making some hash and pressing that into live rosin is some insanely good stuff.
I've been
Even
really
if
digging
they-
it. You know, it's nice.
Red said he's only had rosin once. Or Red, you're gonna have a lot of rosin here in a couple weeks.
Sure hope so, man. I was just throwing in chat that it was made by MI No Till Guy and Can of Kitten, and it was absolutely delicious. I smoked it out of a Puffco Peak.
Yep.
Peak. I don't know what the hell those things are called. I'm sorry.
Puffco Peak, yep, you're right.
Okay, I
That
think
was
I said-
Slurricane. That
I
was
said
some
peak.
good stuff.
Really
It was
was.
delicious, man. Yeah, it really was. Really delicious. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm digging the Slurricane. I'm smoking the archive one right now. I'm loving it. I'm not sure which one. Yeah,
That's your
Can of Kitten
gimbal?
in chat. Shout us back. Which breeder was your Slurricane? Was it in-house or was it archive? I'm smoking the archive right now. I'm curious. That's all. My dog's gonna shout at me any second, so I'm just listening for him. In
Good
case I
old
have to
DOG.
run away any second.
The sequence.
Theirs was in-house.
In-house, sweet.
You could answer this question. Who was asking? Let me find it real quick. Robert Mays in the chat is asking, is flower rosin and live rosin different? And yes, they are, but I'm sure you can answer this.
Yeah, we were talking about that in the chat a little bit. They definitely are different. A lot of times when you press flower, you'll get a really shattery type of rosin too. That's or like a wetter consistency. Yields are a lot different. You get a lot less terps, and generally flower rosin is from cured flower because live flower would have way too much water in it. So you get the cured flavor profile, which is fine. But these days, most people prefer the live rosin, which is fresh frozen bubble hash pressed into rosin, which is what we made at Kate's house with Old Man. Really good stuff. That's what Red will get to try. He just went outside. And everyone else in the 18th, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I'm sure people have a lot they could say about it. You could go really deep into it, but
My best way of just throwing it all and saying it pretty simply to me as a grower is that live rosin, when you take a clean hit of a live rosin, it's like you're tasting the way the plant smells when it was in late flower.
as close as you can get, for sure. You can't get any like terpier as far as a flower or a hit goes.
Yeah, as a solventless concentrate maker, although water can be a solvent, not really here, but it can be, right? I don't really have anything against any other stuff. I've had fantastic BHO before. I've had some other I like all concentrates, I guess. This just happens to be what I prefer for myself,
Oh, there definitely is fantastic BHO. Like for Groli's right here in the chat, and I'm dabbing fantastic live resin, which is BHO. It exists. It's all over the place.
Yeah, no, totally. Yep. That's not a thing anymore. Where I think concentrate scare is. I feel like it's kind of over.
Well, you're not buying your average wax from the guy isn't
Right.
for Groli BHO though either.
Right. It's not some open blasted doof juice or something.
The comfort is when you find rosin from someone, even if it's done poorly, it's not. There's no solvents in there, so it's a little bit safer.
And what's nice about Fagroli is that all the events that he goes to, he always has his PSI lab testing charts sitting right there on the table. So you know exactly what you're consuming. Yeah. And most of the time, he's hovering at less than 70 ppm, which is mind-blowing.
Yep. I was just going to lean towards that to always double check and make sure that if you're smoking any kind of smoking specifically, not necessarily eating, but any concentrate, know your grower, make sure that they're not spraying dirty pesticides that might combust in your lungs. You don't want them to.
Well, for hash in particular, the issue with hash more often than anything else is a, you know, bacterial molds. You know, there's something in traditionally dried hash. It forms like a seal around the outside of it, or whatnot. But things with moisture in it might, you know, have more potential to go bad. So it's a potential. And the freeze dryer really eliminates that potential by completely removing 100% of the moisture. You know, and without any moisture, no bacteria can live. So it's a thing. You know, it's kind of nice in terms of preservation for anything as well, right? Like not just trichomes, but anything. It's the best way. Like if you wanted the most blueberry tasting blueberry, but not fresh, it would be freeze dried. You know, that's like, because it preserves the cell walls of the material better. I mean, it's like, you know, it's a completely different ball game than dehydrating or any other kind of stuff. So it's the difference between like a 3 and a 4-star hash or a 5 and a 6-star hash. It really is. The freeze dryer is it's a 1-star raise for whatever hash you make, you know, which is pretty sweet.
Getting the water out. Getting the water out is really, really important for storing your hash afterwards. Like it'll mold easy, you know, if you don't have the water out of there.
But on the maybe I'm wrong, but isn't it on the BHO side? Wouldn't like a vacuum oven be kind of the same thing as what the you know, of like what you're using the dehydrator for?
Yeah, exactly. And it is. It's under vacuum. You know, it's a extremely high vacuum, much more than most vacuum ovens. But it, you know, it freezes to negative 40 degrees, and then the shelves warm slightly to make the ice turn directly into a vapor. It never gets wet. It freezes and then poof, turns into fucking vapor. It's crazy. It's alchemy happens there, you know, literally changing the property of it. It's nuts.
I do want to say that I haven't pulled a vacuum in my vacuum oven in probably 2.5 years, 2 years maybe. Although saying I might have done 1 or 2 shatter runs, but no, I haven't pulled a vacuum to purge my sauce at all, and it's because it takes so long. And I consistently, time and time again, showed dozens of test results, well under 200 ppms, as low as 0 ppms, but more commonly 30 to maybe 110 ppms.
Yep.
Total residual solvents. But yeah, it is really like a beautiful thing watching a very similar process, just using, you know, either heat or cold, working in such different ways, but to produce such beautiful end products. And that's one of the beautiful things about this industry I've found so far, especially in the last couple of years, is the amount of innovation we've done, in which we've really just taken some other industry's process and applied it to this plant, or this, you know, our extract process or something like that. I mean, it's beautiful because we've come out with insane products I would have never imagined. But you know, I'm curious to see when that line will kind of be pushed a little bit further. I guess maybe when it's federally legal, right? When we can actually do some serious research.
What's your favorite product so far? Mine is suppositories.
That's an odd omission.
I haven't used it. I just think that that's my favorite, like, niche weird product that they've made so far.
Okay, if we're talking stuff we haven't used, mine would probably be transdermal patches.
I was going to think that too. I was at the dispensary today and I saw those again, and those look really interesting to me. It's the transdermal patches.
I used a transdermal really. So, I mean, I started smoking cannabis again because of a car accident. So I was super interested in that type of thing right when I got back into this. And, you know, I think the salve that I make at home with, like, you know, 1,000 milligrams in a little jar, and I rub some of that on, works so much better, man. I've never had any of those kinds of patches really work for me at all because there's not enough in it. The tincture, though, will work that Skilbo makes, stuff like that. I mean, good Lord. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say it like this, but I think if you're a big enough company to have like back patches, and I think those are maybe a little complicated to make, you know, like you got to be a company to make that kind of shit. I think you might be only putting a very minimal amount in them, you know, but if we were making them, we'd probably throw a couple 100 milligrams in it or something, you know, like I need some actual back pain relief. I don't need like a 10 milligram dummy patch, you know, I need some medicine, man.
Thank you, old man Herman Hash. I'm going to go ahead and plug my Fergoli whipped body butter, 300 milligram THC. That shit works so good. I played a little tennis and disc golf over Christmas. Yeah, there you go. Nutrient Shootout's got it. Man, seriously,
in the nick of time.
it works. It takes about 20 minutes to work, and it works for maybe 2 to 3 hours. And
So
it's
good.
literally just decarved BHO, guys, mixed with a bunch of other ingredients that's listed on the label. You can make it at home. It's unreal.
And that
That's
type
really
of
good.
I have to try that
really
stuff.
works, man. It really does. If there's enough in it, it really does make a legitimate difference in my back pain, which runs my life. You know, my back issues are like legit. So
That's why I created it, man. I got sports injuries, surgeries, all that kind of stuff. I decided to make some kind of pain management topical combined with some moisturizing properties, just because it's especially it's actually kind of humid this time of year. Well, right now in Michigan, as we all know, but it can get super dry and arid, and that wind and stuff can get you. And so I figured we'd just throw some kind of moisturizing properties into it too. But it's not CBD. It's everyone always thinks it's got CBD in it. It's just my BHO. So I think it's tested at like 2 or 3 milligrams of CBD before, but that's totally just by byproduct of having an extract that's compiled of my entire garden.
mhm.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say my favorite product is topicals. Anything that can ease my joint pain. You know, same deal. Sports injuries, shit. I dove into a sandbar. I got a bad neck and all kinds of shit, man. Yeah, my wrists are all messed up from rollerblading and trimming and shit. Carpal tunnel like crazy. Skilbo, man. That like tincture that you made, that stuff is just fantastic. A little mixture of that and switching over to the non-spring scissors has just been a relief for me, man. Yeah.
I'm an old person's best friend right now with that rollerball, man. Like everybody over the holidays and stuff, because people are more receptive now than they seem to have been even 3-4 years ago now. And so my best friend, he went over to his in-laws house, and the old man has never really messed with anything before, and he put it on his hands. And again, just like I said, with old people and hands, that's the one thing I can say for sure about this is, like, for RA and stuff, really look into topicals. You can make them yourself. You don't have to go out and break the bank and try to do all this stuff. You can help yourself.
Right. And the lucky thing too about salves or something like that, I mean, prior to doing any cannabis stuff, I was making soap at home and like rendering my own fat and doing lye and using calculating all these things together to make all these products and stuff, and it was fun, right?
He hosted a fight club in his basement.
And
You're out, man.
No joke, that is the best soap. If you have resin on your hands, that is the best fucking soap.
But it's like the salves are super easy. It's an oil, right? I mean, you're using coconut oil and something else. I mean,
some beeswax. Throw some beeswax in there to thicken it up. There you go.
Right, exactly.
Shea butter and beeswax is my base. That's probably about 50% of it.
That's what mine was shea butter, beeswax, and then my essential oils. And the way I went, man.
I bought like a 10-pound block of beeswax like 5 or 6 years ago from some actual bee farm up north. Like, I've got a lot, so it works, and it's great.
My dad's allergic to bees, and he thinks he had a reaction putting a topical that had beeswax in it. He thinks that he had a reaction. He's not sure if it's from that or if it's from something else that he kind of had it in a couple spots on his body, but so we don't know if to have him try it again or to try to find a different type of topical.
There's lots of other thicker oils. I mean, there's shea butters will work. I mean, cocoa butters. There's actually some of the harder stuff will work fine as well. I mean, it's an oil, so it'll dissolve it. and it might be a little greasy on the skin. Like that'll be the thing, is you want something that absorbs, but also leaves a protective layer. I mean, that's the way I do mine.
Yeah.
That's the key, is that you don't want something greasy on that's going to stain your clothes. People are not down with that.
You know, I think
lot of-
since we're talking about topicals, we should mention the fact that if CBD is more water soluble than THC, THC actually needs to be kind of massaged and or rubbed. And this is at least from what I hear from this book, The Cannabis Pharmacy, is that the THC needs to actually be rubbed or massaged into the skin to get it past the skin barrier into your joints and tissues. The CBD not so much, because it has a little bit better water solubility to it, but you still want to like really massage that stuff in there. From what I hear, at least. I don't know if there's truth behind it, but
has anybody ever gotten like a physical high from a topical?
No, but it does work, like for pain relief.
Oh, absolutely it does. Because I've gotten a full body massage with mine, like using like half a jar. Yeah, no, didn't get high. I was super relaxed, you know what I mean? And like, oh my gosh, but it didn't get high. And
If
people
it wasn't a Swedish guy, it doesn't count.
Different receptors, man.
just my wife.
Needs to be a Swedish guy named Sven or something. Like
Going for that hot stone massage.
Sequence.
To
You have
bump
to
you
figure it out.
up.
You're thinking about it a lot.
I think about this all the time.
What about
Well-
lube? Anybody tried the cannabis lube?
Yeah, Abolished and Miss C make that stuff.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to give me the hookup, and I'll give them the reviews.
Kate had a really
Same.
good name for her lube idea.
I would highly suggest picking some up if you can find it.
Says from the shadows.
Kate's lube name was Canalingus.
You better make it edible then. There
Definitely.
you go. An edible lube,
you got to trademark that now.
right?
Isn't that good?
You never know what the hell we're going to be talking about on this show.
Ross said, first time dropping in. Great show every Sunday. Yes, Ross, we're here every Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. We roll with the daylight savings time, wherever that direction tends to go. But we'll be here. We've been here through all the holidays and everything so far. The panel kind of rotates, so some people that are here will be missing, and some people that aren't here will be here next week, and stuff like that. We try to keep different people here all the time, but there's core members as well. Thank you for being here.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us, man. It's a chill way to spend your Sunday night.
Yeah, I had to shut my camera off. For girl whose concentrates had me seriously pie-eyed, and I didn't have no sunglasses to hide behind. So
Did you have the dab sweats?
Oh, for sure.
Like the meat sweat.
Perfect.
You know, they are pretty
Wife
similar
says
to the
that.
meat sweats.
Oh man, I love the meat sweats. Nice rack of ribs. It's hard to drive home.
So you
Okay.
guys haven't talked about the New Year's. What happened with you guys?
Oh yeah, we got really high.
We hung out. We recorded a video, the Kate video. We mostly just smoked a lot, hung out, and went home. It was a good time. We didn't record like a sitting there sesh video like we normally do. But like how it normally goes, most of our talks aren't stuff that can go on YouTube anyway, so who knows. It was fun. A lot of fun. I can't wait to see you guys on the 18th. I can't wait to see you very soon.
Same here, man. Can't wait.
Dankman420 asks, if they use a rub, will they fail a THC urine test?
Negative.
No? That's good to know.
I've actually been asked that several times recently too, and I didn't know the answer to the question, but my guess was no.
That's actually
I would
really
say
good to know,
so.
because I was curious about that.
They're doing
You'd probably need a ton of it.
it depends on the test, okay? Because
If you do a follicle test, you're fucked.
yeah, I had a job before this one that was a fucking hair follicle test. So That was before the beard, obviously.
And a lot of places are doing mouth swabs these days anyway. They're not doing the urinalysis as much as that's cost effective.
Spartan
I'm
was
totally hairless, so I'm good.
Yeah, he was like one of those old
Like
kids
that.
walking around, you know.
Can't get in with that shit.
Ugh.
You should see my Nair collection.
He's like a hairless cat.
Oh, good. Dead time.
So I never did get to ask you about your veg. Why'd you have change your T5s? Were you just running regular bulbs in there, or did you think about stepping up your bulbs before you swapped out the fixture? Or have you run the power veg bulbs?
That's for you, Sequence.
Mhm.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. What did you ask me, Eagle? Can't multitask.
From the chat.
I heard power veg bulbs. I didn't change.
I asked you if the reason why you changed your T5 fixture was the reason that were you running regular bulbs, or were you running power veg bulbs, or did you even think about upgrading to the LED bulbs before you upgraded the fixture itself?
No, I never really considered doing any of that stuff. I was really happy with my HLG light that is in my flower room. So I wanted to add an additional light no matter what, because I wanted to expand my veg space. So that was what I just chose to buy. Ideally, I would have picked a little bit bigger one maybe, but that was my option at the time. So I grabbed that one. I'm really happy with it so far. I just plugged it in today. So we'll see how the plants respond to it.
Is that a single
forward.
panel 100 HLG, or is it like
Yeah.
a quad panel kit?
No, it's a single panel with one driver. It
So
hangs
is that
from one
like
hang
70
point.
watts?
It's 100 watts.
Nice.
Yeah, it's super cool. So we'll see what it does. I'll know how the plants respond to it as of like tomorrow or something.
Yeah, I've got a 240 watt driver running the old QB 132s, a quad set of panels, and highly efficient, and plants love it for veg.
Oh, that'd be
I mean,
an
you can
awesome
do
veg
a-
light.
You can do a 4x4, 5x5 with it. And those new V2s are really nice because they're based on the 301 diode. So
Sequence, that sound wasn't you breaking another banger, was it?
I was dropping the cap to this dark crystal glass clear that I've been using to clean my banger as the show's been going on here. This is on recommendation from Kanakit and an MI No-Till guy. It's I'm still working on working it out, but I'm not disappointed by it completely anymore. We'll see.
What's the chemical composition on that cleaner that you got? I'm curious about residuals for any cleaner. I mean, I'm just always curious about that. It's kind of
All right, I'm gonna read it. I did watch a person drink this, so can't be too bad. Non-chlorinated water, Carinja oil, processed coconut extract, processed kelp extract, and processed extract of sugarcane. But you can drink it and stuff, so it's not horrible. Can't be that bad.
Taranja. Okay.
Karanja, is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's like usually pair it with neem for IPM.
Yep.
You just stick it in your banger and boil it out a little bit, and then Q-tip it out.
It's the
Works
kelp
pretty
that's
good.
interesting to me that it's included there.
It's for the PGR values.
Sounds great to use the IPM product to clean out the shit you're smoking out of.
Right. But I also use another IPM product that people will drink, so that plant therapy. So what do you do?
Yeah, I use that too. I can't talk shit.
Yeah, so I was
Good
curious. It
stuff.
sounds like a bunch of oils. I'm curious how well it evaporates, cleans out, goes away. Does it get combusted? I don't know.
It evaporates pretty good, and then you swab it out mostly.
Cool.
Jack says you crushed that pronunciation, Scobo.
My problem is, and in pretty much every rig I've used, but I mean, currently it's always the Puffco Peak, I guess. I always get a ridiculous amount of reclaim. I don't know if that means I'm taking too big a dabs, too hot a dabs, too long a dabs, I don't know. I don't know. But it's like to the point where I don't know, once a week have to pop my glass off. Let's see if we can. I don't know. I just cleaned this like 2 days ago. You'll see it right there. I'll try to
I
get
would
it in
say
there.
either too big or too cold, or it's like a ratio. The bigger your dab is, the warmer it's got to be to evaporate it all off.
Well, it's like collecting like at like, after the water. It's just a little bit down there, but in a week this will be, I don't know, halfway full, and it'll just be oozing into the rest of it. And like, I don't know. So you think it's what, too what? Too hot?
Anna Kitten says you have to clean more. They have one of those peaks, so I would go with their advice.
But yeah, he was thinking you have to maybe go hotter or go a lower amount of the dab. So hotter is probably the only option.
No, actually, I disagree. I just rather do more micro dabs because I don't like
Yep.
doing super hot dabs.
Yep, I'm with you.
I'd rather taste it.
I've
I'm
seen
here
that
for the
problem.
terps.
I've seen that problem a lot with the Puffco Peaks. I've been looking at getting a Focus. I'm trying to remember the name, but Focus has one that's a little bit bigger banger, looks like a little bit taller design. So I think it works a little better and runs a little longer on battery too.
I've definitely been reading the point counterpoint between those two items, the Focus V Carta and the Puffco Peak.
That's what it is.
I won't go over them particularly on the show, but they both look like capable devices for sure.
Right.
I definitely prefer the quartz at home over everything else, but a travel option is good for when you go to a friend's house or something like that.
I feel like when people have two cars in a family, they don't buy the same car twice. They buy two different cars for a reason. Maybe the one that you like at the house isn't the one that you want to take on the road with you. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have that special bong that's just you. Then you have that one that's the party piece that you're like, they're probably not going to knock this over. It's really thick and it's
Like
pretty
that one
easy
right
to
there.
clean. Exactly. You know what?
That's the party
insider.
piece.
Yeah.
That's the event piece, really. I I only use that at like Sapo Sash, Cannabis Cup, that kind of stuff.
This is my daily driver right here. Just keep hammering on this.
Kate left that e-nail and dab rig over at my house, and I've been like dumbfounded with dabs, man.
Get cloud.
Welcome to the dark side.
Good stuff, man.
Without it, it's like it's a next level of medication for me. It's actually been really helpful for my back. Right? It's not like I don't know. I'm not getting especially blown out by it anymore, but my level of medication has stepped up and my body feels a little looser. It's nice,
Stay on those micro dabs, in my opinion, quite honestly. And when you do it for like a week or two and then go back and smoke a joint, and it'll feel like you just took a dab.
I've been.
Everybody says,
I do a lot of CBD, and I've been doing distillate through my mini nail, and distillate's pretty harsh, so I'll take like a drop of CBD oil, like mint, and just put a drop in with it. Take the dab. It's a lot smoother. It's a good way to do CBD. Take nice, big, deep hits. I'm always in pain. I'm always working.
I just dab that isolate right there. It doesn't have any
Nice.
flavor, so you can just add that into a bowl or dab it by itself if you want to. Get a little bit of CBD in your life.
Yep.
I always keep a little bit of this around because it's really cheap when you can find it. It's usually like $20 a gram.
Yep.
So you know
1,000
it's full of
milligram.
lead and shit. Yeah, it's the good stuff.
Speaking of like large tolerances for ifs, it's always funny for me my bubble to be burst, kind of a thing. So for New Year's, my best friend invited me to his house for his party, so I go there. I'm the only grower there, and most growers have a pretty high tolerance. So, I've got pre-rolls with me. I brought a couple ounces with me, and I had my V Fire pen with me with live rosin card in it. And I'm just sharing every time I go to hit it, and people are just getting blown the fuck out.
Like you're partying with us, right?
Yeah.
In his wake was a bunch of victims in that one.
Dude, yeah. Think about what you're saying. You showed up with a couple. How many people were at this party? You showed up with a couple ounces. Like
Yeah.
I get it because I do the same thing. I'm very proud of what I do, and not I don't know a whole lot of people that grow other than people online, right? Like there's a shitload of us, but you just this is normally not in your social circles, but you were victims might be a better.
These are the guys that are always rolling penners,
Dude, I think I seen that 80s movie version of that, man.
Yeah, and so like one of the guys, it surprised me. He brought me some rosin that they'd pressed out, but I mean it was like rolled up into a ball kind of rosin. So we're not talking the highest of qualities, but it was fucking tasted great, and it was from one of my strains, and so that was it's Spartan Glue. So that was cool to taste that, and but they were dabbing. They were just heating up a nail off of a bong, which was pretty cool. I love that. And but a lot of people are having a hard time because they're filling up a big old bong full of a hit and then not being able to clear it after that. So I told everybody I was going to be the DD. I said, I'm the designated dabber. You guys just fucking go away and I'll clear your dabs for you. And I did that all night long. And when I left, my buddy was actually laid on the floor, and I said, what are you doing? What are you doing down here, man? And he says, trying to get underneath the smoke.
Stop, drop, and roll.
So I just
couldn't have any more.
Yeah, I just left and I told everybody, I said, all right, guys, well, you guys have a new year. I'm just going to go home and try to get high. And I guess I became legendary over there or something.
Thinking so, bro.
That's the beauty of like the cannabis cups and having 30, 40, 50,000 people show up over the weekend and just running a dab rig, as for as long, I guess until we ran out the last time. But yeah, it's an experience that most people, I just feel like it still hasn't caught on in Michigan. I just still feel like the extracts aren't quite there yet. Like we're still very much flower and edible focused. I don't know if everyone agrees, but seems that way.
I think we're getting there now with the the high level BHO game like you guys and Dab Smiths and there's a few other brands, and then the rosin game, Michigan Made Melts,
Smoky,
Superior solventless.
Yeah, Superior, Covert. There's a lot of them out there. Different guys doing different things.
Dab Smiths.
I'm definitely still one of those flower guys.
Dogman Troop. Yeah, flower and edibles are always going to be a thing, but if it stays true where the market that is out west kind of comes out here, then I think you're right that extract is going to get more popular and only more popular, and cartridges too, and edibles as well, because it's a more casual way than smoking. It's more, not everyone wants to smell like the dank when they go out to lunch and stuff like that.
Right. Well,
So
my kids are
gives them
all
options.
my kids are all in their mid-20s, and they're at the point where I know all of their friends and stuff, and you would be surprised at how few of them actually smoke flower. They are so predominated by extracts and pens, just crazy, man.
It's definitely pens. I remember this is probably dated at this point, but my Weed Maps rep earlier this year told me, well, I guess last year, told me pre-rolls and pens are just a dominant majority of the market across like the United States. And he's like, that's where it's at. And unfortunately I didn't really go that route because it seemed like distillate was a waste of terpenes, and pre-rolls were like, I don't know, don't you want to grind up your own flower? I mean, it's the convenience thing. I guess it's all convenience, both pens and pre-rolls.
Yeah, it's all about convenience and smell and effect and all of those other things. I really like the extracts because of convenience as well. As a dad or whatever, you can sneak off and do a dab in like 15 seconds and go back to doing your dad shit, as you hold up your Puffco. And like all the parents like nod their heads in agreement with that. Like you can't always roll off and then roll a joint and then smoke, you're gone for half an hour. Your kids burned your house down. So dabs definitely work for that.
But yeah, real talk on what the market's like right now. The reason it's kind of tough in the concentrate game right now is because it's just flooded. And the reason that the concentrate game is flooded is because of the state's rules on CFU counts that everybody's failing. So what do they have to do? They have to remediate it. Otherwise, they have to have a chance of forfeiting it all and getting nothing. So it's almost forced into remediation and forced onto the concentrate market. And it's just filling the market.
Can we talk about that a little further? Because that's what I had assumed. Because I only recently heard that the concentrate market was flooded, and I'm like, really? Like, haven't we been demanding flour like crazy in Michigan? Like, have we met this demand suddenly? And then I started thinking about all the stories I've heard of all these places that are just constantly failing the crops over and over again. And it's like, wait, let's pump the brakes and think about what's actually happening here. And it seems like, yeah, it's probably all getting remediated into concentrates, and that doesn't really make me feel any better.
Yep, that's the process. It's like you can petition the state and say this is what the failure was, and then they determine if a remediation is possible. If they determine that it's fine and okay, they give you the okay, and you have to tell them exactly where you're getting done, and it's all tracked through metric. And that's, I mean, that's like the guaranteed at least you get about half cost of what you were hoping for with a flower harvest. And then the other chance is, well, you have a 50-50 chance because you have to pass 2 tests and you have to pass both of them. If you fail either one, you have to destroy the product. So 90% of the business people are going to go for I'm going to get something out of it. You know what I mean?
Right. What percentage of people are, are we getting flour on the shelves? Like what percentage of like,
I know that at work, we're like when we take down a harvest and we're taking them down like every 2 weeks, Steven, the owner, I think spends maybe a half hour on the phone and it's sold. I mean, it's gone. So as far as I can tell from the inside, all I can tell you is it sells itself. It just goes.
Right. The stuff that's passing metric, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So you guys are passing metric, but what percentage of our market is actually passing metric for flour?
Yeah.
That I don't have those numbers. That'd be a very interesting thing to see for sure.
Right. I'd love to hear some lab perspective.
What I really think needs to happen is one of 2 things. Either have the state have state-run labs, spread out across the state that are run by them and are, they're a third party. There's no interest for them. They're not making money,
Ooh,
one lab, one
seems
standard.
like they are making money though.
Well, one lab, one standard, because we've seen problems creep up with that.
Right now, the lab is a private entity, and the only customer they have is the person producing the flour. That's kind of a conflict of interest.
Yeah, but the more labs we have, the better it will be. And we definitely don't want a monopoly on the labs, especially in the hands of the state, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
I would say I would even less like it to be in the hands of one single monopoly on the private sector as well, though. I think we just need to have more labs, quite frankly.
Competition in all sectors is good for everyone, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
The labs can be held to a standard. They are currently held to a standard. I think it's just too loose.
Well, I mean, yes, but it hasn't been too loose for some of them, right?
No, I don't think that like caregivers are held to too loose of a standard. I just think that lab testing itself is held to too loose of a standard.
No, I know. I know.
The girl he's referring to is they have busted a lab and shut down.
Yeah, definitely.
Even worse of a bottleneck. That something needs to be addressed somewhere to get more labs to test and more available, because even the turnarounds on some of these lab testings is a week. If a week is considered good, if you could get it in a week, and you're paying extra for that usually.
Right, lack of labs. Don't you think that there's a possibility of just contamination? I mean, how often do you think them machines are calibrated and cleaned? Do you think cross contamination is an issue because there's so few testing agencies? Do you think
I've done? I mean, I don't know about hundreds, but certainly over 100 lab tests on different batches of products, everything from edibles to topicals to concentrates and flour. I will say that I've never noticed that any sort of cross contamination issue. I've found the results have always been consistent, not only in things like terpene levels and cannabinoid levels across the strain, specifically, but even stuff like heavy metals testing and microbials and pesticides, things we don't use, they don't show up in the test. But that being said, I have only used PSI labs, and I've been using PSI labs for like 4 years. So I don't know. That obviously lends some bias, but I'm just going off the results I've been given.
But it's nice to know that it's been consistent over time. Like that's something that you wouldn't necessarily expect. I find it interesting that like the results. So it'll say that your THC is 22% plus or minus 10%, and it really makes you question how reliable that number is. But if it's consistently that same number, then I guess you can be more respectful of it.
Right. I've seen more fluctuation in terpene by volume than I have THC or any other cannabinoid. But like even stuff like CBGA, it's very common in many of the sativa strains I've grown over the years. And it seems to be something that I favor. Just my body, my body and my mind favors. So I tend to kind of lean towards those plants. And then I didn't realize that though until years after enjoying them, that I'm like, oh, it clicked one day. Like, oh my gosh, all these plants are testing 2-3% CBGA, or the test results are, whether it's extracts or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, maybe that's why, and then the other kind of, I guess, commonality I found was terpinolene. That was the most common terpene in lime skunk and Durban poison and clementine. It's like all these were just my favorites. That was the terpene. So I think those two things are more important than THC at this point to me.
You talk like that, and now you got me wanting to start spending some money and getting all these terpene tests on all the strains that I got at home.
Do
I
it,
was just
man.
talking about that last night. Like, I really need to get all my terpene tests taken care of. I really want to see what's in everything and see what's similar, what maybe I could get rid of just because of terpene content alone.
We did talk about this last night, which to me is like not earlier this morning, but it was only just a few hours ago, man. These topics, man, they keep coming back up for a reason, guys. Pay attention to this.
Well, they don't require testing in Michigan for terpenes. Like that's the one thing. So you can go get full metric testing done on your flower or your concentrate sample, spend $400 or $500, like almost, to get the full thing done. And that still doesn't include terpene testing because it's not required by the state. Whereas states like Alaska, for example, they actually do. So every single product that gets put out there is terpene testing is required. And like, I know it would suck for everybody, like on the, having to pay for it, and it'd be great money for the labs. But I think
it's an invaluable piece of data.
Yeah. I can't bring myself to say it should be required.
And it's a marketing point.
It is, but it's a key in the lock point. Like Vergoli said, he knows that if he can find this on the label, it's money for him. This is what I and Jack Greenstock in the chat have talked about the whole time I've known both of those guys, man. I've just been, that's a recurring theme, is to try to figure out how to use this plant to heal yourself. And it's great when you have transparency like this. And it's great when we talk about the tech that's changed over the last 4 years. That's the whole theme of this show, man, is everybody's like, what's the topic of the show? In the chat. This is the topic of the show.
Right, because Vergoli's combinations of terp sauce in a lot of cases are like one batch of terp sauce mixed with another. So having all that data ahead of time and then knowing your patients or knowing what's kind of even, become kind of the hot thing, like citrus terps lately are coming back, pine terps, you can instantly just make a new combination and go from there. So it seems pretty invaluable to get those tests done.
Yeah, I mean, shit, we all know what the entourage effect is and why it happens. And if not, go back and check on a recent video and you can learn about the entourage effect, and we'll always talk about it. And so I'm not going to get into it too deep, but maybe for like the MMFLA side of things, like the actual medical system, maybe that terpene testing should be a requirement, because that's real important for patients to know. And whether or not they want to include it on the recreational side, that could be a different story. But I mean, that is you're right,
let's switch gears.
It's a good point.
Let's talk about if I have some really wicked bad anxiety and I figure out that this other thing is a trigger for me to have a problem. I would really like to be able to see that on the label and not just find out how much THC is in this or that it passed for heavy metals, because there's more than a couple things going on here.
Think of how we could tailor our medicine to our needs if we had that information. And think also of how many like invaluable strains have just been lost. You know what I'm saying? Like how many? Like hundreds, thousands and thousands of strains have been lost just because of that, you know?
And I think more importantly, terps to the majority of people that I know, I guess I might still be in my bubble, but would be more interested in a terpene test and knowing that than the strain name. See what I mean? It's that more important. So
Amen.
What it is.
That's such a good way to say it, man.
Yeah, and that can also, knowing that, would keep people from calling something that it isn't, because they know that there's gonna be a terpene test and it better be pretty damn close to what you're calling it. So it's another way to keep
transparency, man.
Yeah, transparency too.
Terpene tests would raise the bar for sure for caregivers to up their game, but give them a valuable data set. And going back to Epsom salts, you know, like nectar for the gods, a lot of people will find out when they run more sulfur latent flower that their plant just expressed a terpene that it didn't before. And you're only going to get that with those type of testing. So
yeah, and
so
all this talk about different light. Oh, sorry, what was that? Go ahead.
No. I was just saying sulfur, carbohydrates, how to get those terps. How do we get them?
Oh yeah,
you're right.
And then all this new talk about different light schedules, you know, that seems to be the new thing. Everybody's figuring out different photo periods and using red, you know, starters and finishers and things. So yeah, terpene testing is really important right now.
So tying this all together, basically we're kicking off season 2, 2020, looking ahead with cannabis, where it's going, where it's been. I'm glad to be taking this trip with all y'all, and I know people in the chat are enjoying it right along with us. If you haven't before now, please drop a like.
Please drop a like. And with that, we've got like 5 more minutes, so I suppose we should do our final shout-outs. We're at a good break point here. I really want to thank everyone for joining us for Growly Nutrient Shootouts. You guys brought the numbers today. We had like 117 people here at one point. Currently had like 570 playbacks already. Super cool show. Red Setter, you're first. Give us a rundown.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's been a wonderful, wonderful first season. I'm so glad I've been able to come along with all you guys. And, you know, Red Setter Farm on Instagram, and also the C Cannabis, Strainly here on YouTube. I'm going to try for this second season, get some more content out, maybe some weekly updates in a more consistent manner, as well as my own channel in a more consistent manner. That's the plan for 2020. Happy New Year, everybody, and cheers to season 2. Rock and roll.
Thanks, Red. Old man, you're up.
You can find me mostly on Instagram. I'm like, what a great show. Been super, super interesting. Like the conversation, I've been super into it. Man, what a way to start off the season 2. I'll be putting out some videos. Keep your eyes open for that. I love everybody on the panel. Thank you, chat, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, old man. Spartan, you're up.
I just want to take this time and shout out my boss, the owner of Mitten Canico, at Mitten Gardens on Instagram. He threw up a post today, and he's having an auction, and he's calling it a employee pack. It's some of our gear, like the backpack behind me, a hat, I think a shirt was in there, and he's just having an auction in the comments. And he's using this money to raise for the relief in Australia, because the whole damn country's on fire, and they're having it over there a bad way. So he's gonna, you know, give all that gear to the highest bid, and then he's gonna match that highest bid and make that the donation. So if you guys want to take a look. Go ahead. It's Mitten Gardens on Instagram.
Yeah, that's a super cool gesture by them. I definitely think that's interesting and really cool. Thanks for bringing that up, Spartan. I had forgotten about that. Nutrient shootouts. You're up, my friend.
Shout out to obviously the panel and everyone in chat. A great group of guys. Probably some of the best people in Michigan, processing, growing. Shout out to Fagroli before we went live. He was helping me out with some extraction questions. So always appreciate the knowledge, and shout out to Eagle One because hash videos. So I'm gonna be doing some bubble hash moving forward. So I'm gonna lean on you for that. So great show.
Thanks, man. Fagroli, you're up.
Yeah, I just want to thank Sequence, Skillbo, and the rest of the panel for having me. This has been fun. This is honestly one of my favorite things to do is talk shop. We've been growing in our closets and, not telling our families about it for so long. And that's kind of still the case to some extent. So I really do appreciate coming on here and talking with you guys and, the 100 plus, couple hundred people that have stopped in and chat. And I'm sure the more that will pop by here once it's been published. So thank you guys for inviting me up for Growly. And until next time, good luck and grow big.
Thank you, sir. Eagle.
Well, I would say first and foremost, look for me here. I do this mainly to support the show, not myself. I love hanging out with you guys. It's awesome. You guys brought me along, and I love being here. So if you can't find me here, then you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. I appreciate you guys. It's been a great show. Chat, thanks for tuning in. You guys are all awesome. Have a good night.
Thank you, Eagle. Scobo.
What a great way to start it, man. Just hanging out with my friends, talking about cannabis, and learning a whole bunch of new stuff that I didn't know before. So thanks, guys, man. I really appreciate it. Man, just stoned.
Yeah, chat was roasting your high ass all night.
Oh, I don't even mind a bit, man.
They're like, who woke Scobo up when you asked the question? It was so funny.
That's good meds. That means I'm doing it right.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for joining us, Scobo. Thank you, chat. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. Tell one of your friends. Come back next Sunday at 9 o'clock. We will be here. Adios.